I originally picked out this sweatshirt just because it's purple and I didn't want to wear my Mitchie Camp Rock purple shirt again to talk about Quibi, but this does work out because we are technically investigating a death. That's it. That's my intro. Hi, I'm Amanda and you're watching Swell Entertainment, and Quibi has become quite a focal point on my channel. A lot of people were letting me know that Quibi was being shut down, and so I figured, you know what, I might as well just crank out a video for Friday about this, because I don't think you guys are going to last until next Tuesday, plus algorithm and all of that. I joke about Quibi a lot, not even just on this channel, but on Twitter and such, and one day in the future I'm probably going to have to make a video about how much money Quibi and TanaCon have made me, because I'll be honest, I thought about sending Quibi headquarters a fruit basket for Christmas. Their bad business has been very good for me. So on October 21st, a lot of publications, including Complex, The Hollywood Reporter, Verge, started posting about how Quibi is going to be shut down. Allegedly, Jeffrey Katzenberg and Meg Whitman, the co-CEOs of Quibi, both started talking to some of their investors saying that they are going to be shutting Quibi down. This isn't really surprising, considering I think it was not even a couple weeks ago that there was news that they were shopping Quibi around trying to find some type of deal for sale. Quibi launched not even 7 months ago, and its launch wasn't spectacular. It wasn't great. When you signed up for an account, you got 90 days for a free trial, which is insane. But apparently after that 3-month free trial ended, only about 7% of those users that signed up at launch stayed on as paying subscribers. That's really bad. I don't think I have to explain to you how bad that is. There was a bit of hype around Quibi before they launched, but it was mainly around the fact that they were somehow able to raise almost $2 billion in investments for the fucking app. I'm sorry, it's so much money. It's like a dumb amount of money for the dumb concept. I don't know who was like, yes, money, give it to you. And I'm assuming that it was because it was Meg Whitman and Katzenberg. But still, I really want to know how they pitch this to potential investors, because mobile-only streaming service. You can only watch it on your mobile device. Now they've updated it, so now they have apps on Apple TV, etc. That got wheeled out, I think, 2 days ago, if that now. And now they have simulcast, you can do streaming and things like that. But that was, again, later changes, and they were originally not going to do that. It was originally only going to be available on your phone. You could watch it this way or this way, but still, that's not enough to carry a streaming service. You know, that's a gimmick. That's not a content. The content has to be king. Quibi's main thing for what they had going for them was a bunch of gimmicks. Like, oh, it's only on your phone. Okay, it's called Quibi because quick bites, because every episode of everything, all the shows, are 10 minutes or less. Oh, all of the Quibis, the 10-minute or less shows, that's what we call them, Quibis, you can watch them in portrait mode or horizontally. I feel like the consistent thread through all of my Quibi videos is how much I don't like Quibi as a concept, but also how much I hate portrait mode. Quirks and gimmicks may generate some interest in your content, but they're not going to be enough to make people stick around. Your content has to be king. Formatting doesn't count for shit. If your content is boring, no one's going to care, okay? No one's going to stick around. I saw a lot of people who were not interested in Quibi but became interested once they realized that Reno 911 was going to be available on Quibi. But aside from that, I saw very little intrigue in Quibi, or very few people talking about it aside from Reno 911. A lot of Quibi shows were designed as so insane you have to see it to believe it, which was part of their marketing strategy. For example, here's Anna Kendrick befriending a sex doll. Here's 2 home renovators going to murder houses and renovating them. You know, things that you're just like, wait, fucking what? Something that I've criticized heavily, and a lot of people criticize heavily, was the inability to share things from Quibi. For example, the fact that it was mainly based only on the phone made it incredibly difficult to screen share / download anything, meaning it was incredibly difficult to share GIFs, clips of the show. There's just so much free marketing and people sharing stills, GIFs, talking about your show, criticizing your show. Hell, my first video talking about Quibi, there were people who were like, oh, now that I know what it is and how you talked about some of these shows, because I did like a lot of the shows that I talked about in my first Quibi video. I still do like a lot of the shows that I talked about in my first Quibi video. A lot of them are good. A lot of them are incredibly well acted, but there's not enough there. There wasn't enough variety of content on Quibi, or enough of like well-known content, like for example, Netflix has their originals, but they also have a database of content. They have variety. Same with Hulu, same with Disney Plus. Like there's other things that they had on there, but that doesn't work for Quibi's content model, okay? It doesn't work with the 10 minutes or less episodes. It doesn't work because that's boring. That'd be bad. You understand what I'm saying? The writing's been on the wall for Quibi for a while. Again, their marketing issue, they've never really got a handle on their marketing, I would say. Even their early marketing before launch was all about how funny the name was, to the point that no one knew what the fuck Quibi was.
So they call a trainer a sneaker, a jumper a sweater, and a few minutes a Quibi? Yep. What a strange country.
It was just joking about how weird of a name it was. No one knew, oh, it's a streaming service. Why is it a Quibi? What's a Quibi? Oh, it's 10 minutes less, 10-minute bites. Okay, what about your shows? Are you a streaming service? Why don't you have a free version with ads? I'm frustrated because so much of this was like fixable. I think it was my first video on Quibi where I said that it was probably a bad thing that they were launching during a global pandemic when they were targeting millennials on the go as their target audience. But I totally disagree now, because you know how many people are starving for content? And again, I've said this previously, there's content out there, you just gotta look for it. But like, so many other streaming platforms are doing really well. Like, there really was no reason for Quibi to not do well. Plenty of people wanted content to binge. I don't think Quibi's being 10 minutes or less would have mattered much. I do still think a lot of the fallout from Quibi came down to marketing. Their hubris is bad, and the way that Katzenberg has talked about Quibi a couple of times, and the way apparently how he wanted to name it after like super premium sushi originally. Yikes, bro. So much of Quibi's launch and subsequent downfall just reeks of boomers thinking they're trendy and refusing to take any note from any form of criticism that they're getting, because yeah, they kind of backtracked a lot and they added streaming and they added available on Apple TV and etc. But it's like, so many of these changes came late, and it kind of just becomes like, okay, fine, fuck you, we'll do it. They kept spending tons of money on marketing that was just not doing well and was not performing well for getting people hyped for the shows. Like, it was just consistently not catching on. It was very weird. And for example, like, they're still spending money on marketing, I think. Like, there's a very real chance I'm gonna put out this video on Friday. Friday's when this video will go up. And there's an 80% chance that there will be a Quibi ad somewhere on this video. I've gotten a lot of comments asking if there was any way that Quibi could be successful. Yes, as a YouTube channel. A lot of people have said that. I completely agree. Because at the end of the day, so much of Quibi has been done better by YouTubers and TikTokers. Because half of the draw of Quibi is that they got a bunch of A-list stars and gave them a shit ton of money to make shows that just couldn't hold people's attention, because a lot of people are sick of seeing the same people. Certain fans of certain celebrities are going to watch whatever they do. That's just how it is. But there are also a lot of people who want to see new content, new faces, and new types of humor. I think there's a way that Quibi could have been successful with their short form content if they were capable and able to adapt quickly. They shot a lot of content pre-pandemic. I'm fairly certain nothing got shot after the pandemic, so they just had a stockpile of content ready to release throughout the year. Someone's gonna criticize me by saying, like, that's what all shows do, that's what all movies do. That's fine. But Quibi's whole thing was banking on being for millennials, for probably Gen Z, because that's a younger generation. Like, I'm barely millennial. I'm basically Gen Z if we want to get down to the brass tacks of it all. People's attention spans are short, and content needs to evolve with the trends because those are ever changing. TikTok can keep up with that. YouTube can keep up with that. Quibi was never going to be able to keep up with that, and maybe if there wasn't a pandemic, they would have been able to, but I don't think it helped things, and I don't think it really was the final nail in the coffin for Quibi. I think if they launched this last year, I think if they waited till 2022 and launched this, I think we would see the same result, frankly. I'm gonna cut this here because I feel like I'm repeating myself because I've talked about already so much of this in my last two videos on Quibi. But yes, Quibi is shutting down. This was coming. The writing's been on the wall. I'm sorry to everyone that works at Quibi who wasn't Meg Whitman and Katzenberg. It's so much money. God. Okay. So yeah, there's so much money just being burned alive. I feel bad for future streaming service startups because this is gonna make it probably very hard to get investors in the future with how much money is just gone. Hopefully you learn from this because, oh my God, I feel like it should be obvious that only original content was never gonna work out. The sun setting and the light coming through my window onto my floor is my cue to end this. Did you ever subscribe to Quibi? Were you part of the 90-day free trial? Were you automatically subscribed to Quibi after your 90-day trial? Because I know a lot of people didn't turn that off, so they were automatically subscribed and then they canceled. Was that you? Did you like any of the shows on Quibi? Are you hoping that any of them get picked up by other networks and turned into a larger show or a film? Let me know. Comment down below. Shout out to my patrons. Thank you so much for supporting me on Patreon. If you'd also like to support me on Patreon, that will be linked down below. If you'd like to follow me on my social media, that'll be all up here. And that's going to be it. Have a lovely day. Happy Swelloween. Goodbye. Someone on Twitter was like, you should do like a Viking funeral for Quibi. And I did think about doing that, but I'm fairly certain that if I took a boat and put like a little Quibi thing in it and set it on fire in the pool of our complex, that we would be evicted and maybe arrested. I don't know. Thank you, Elaine, Alan, Elise, Cameron, Christopher, Chris, Cody, Colton, Crash, PC, David, Devin, Dawn, Elliot, Aaron, Essen, Evan, Feckless, Hopeless, Jason, John, M, Jonathan, Jordan, Joseph, Kenny, Kevin, Kim, Kristen, Lex, Lisa, Manga, Matt, Matthew S, Me More the Red, Michael, J, Nathaniel, Pat, Pralek, Rob, Robert, Ross, Sam, Simon, Stephen, Tosh, Timothy, Tom, Trevor, Wayne, Wendy, William, Zender.